Today we're speedrunning SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, one of the most broken games I've ever played. We'll start our speedrun as soon as we create a new game, and right away there's just going to be a couple cutscenes to skip, like talking to Gary, we don't really care about that, and right away we're going to skip and take a taxi over to Patrick. For some reason the game just unlocks that for us, so we don't have to do the opening sequence of trying to collect shiny objects and getting a spatula in SpongeBob's house. Instead we're just going to come back later, and right now we're going to do Jellyfish Fields. Now right away we see Squidward, he's getting attacked by jellyfish, and he wants us to get some jellyfish ointment from the king jellyfish for him. And we'll do that eventually, but for right now we just got some general platforming. And like I said in the intro, this game is extremely broken, and the speedrun is even more broken. You might have seen my previous video speedrunning the original game, but this game is very different in terms of everything. Like that movement I do right there, where I'm just barely able to use the weird platforming to make it up there. There's an invisible wall right there which I can walk on, stuff like that. And our first spatula is going to be right here. We're going to use the bungee jump to go right there, get the first spatula, and teleport back to Gary. This is because we don't want to watch the spatula sequence where we have to collect it and stuff, and instead we just want to get right back to the action. Right there I'm going to do some more really weird movements so I can get that sock. After that we got some more unintended platforming, and we're going to get this sock right over here. Now how this game works is for every 10 socks we collect, we can get a spatula from Patrick. So we're going to collect them as we go through and get a total of 40 socks throughout the speedrun. But right now we're also going to skip this gate by doing some more unintended platforming and go through the loading zone at the same time as picking up that spatula. Then we'll see Mermaid Man. We're not really going to talk to him. We can even hit him for good luck and be on our way doing some sliding. You gotta love the sliding in this game, how SpongeBob uses his tongue. I bet the sand tastes really great. And we're also going to pick up some tikis as well as this sock right here. But you will notice we're not going to pick up the sock on the right. Instead, we want to open that box since we're going to come back later. And don't worry, we will get that sock later as well. But for right now, we have our first really hard trick. Now what I want to do is line myself up. I'm going to do a spin, jump, spin, and then if I do a slam in the perfect spot, I will just be able to make it up to this cliff, switch to Patrick, and get his spatula. After that, we're going to teleport back to SpongeBob's house, and we can get the spatula here that we skipped earlier. Just go right through there. It costs 50 shiny objects, which we already got just through playing, and now we can also teleport back to Bikini Bottom. Now right away, we want to go over to Squidward's house, so I'm going to start my way over there, and we can get two things from here. First of all, we can get a spatula, which we have to jump I think like 5 or 10 times within his house, and we can also get a sock by destroying all of his furniture, destroying that poor painting and stuff. We're not really the nicest neighbors in the world. Sorry about that, Squidward, but I gotta get the spatula. You should have just gave it to me, and we'll be on our way out. Now from here we want to start going to the right immediately. We can jump on these tikis to get on this tree and do a fairly precise jump. It's not too bad. Get that extra piece of health right there, and finally make it to the top of the pineapple so we can get the 6th spatula. And now we're going to be heading on our way over to downtown, which since we already have 6 spatulas we can enter. And right away we're going to get our chance to see Mrs. Puff, who wants us to collect 11 of these steering wheels. So we will collect this one for actually multiple reasons. First of all, we can just get her regular spatula, but there's also an exploit we can do with these later, which I'll explain once we get there. But for now, what I'm also going to do is destroy these tikis and hit their buttons. I can just jump up to them, use my bubble bash, and then slam down, and yeah, that hits all the buttons. That's going to be 4. We get rid of that cannon. We're also going to set this explosion off to get a little bit more shiny objects before finally climbing up this statue and getting our 7th spatula. From here we want to get a little bit more shiny objects, so what we can do is explode that guy on our way. These exploding tikis take a little while to explode unless you hit them directly, and also this guy's really annoying. I'm going to take him out because I'm a little low on underwear. But from here what I'm going to do is some more wonky platforming, just barely making it on top of there. Then I want to go on top of this floating tiki and also barely be able to make it there to get that sock before making it all the way over here and getting our next wheel. We'll just grab that. From there I can just start walking straight. I might as well destroy the cannon. I mean, why not? And we'll jump into here to start our next cutscene. We talked to Gary. Before then we're going to teleport to the 2nd spatula. This is going to transform us into Sandy, and she has a very weird exploit where basically what we can do is lasso as we're climbing something. If we do that, then we leave the platform, go back on. We can do this infinite height glitch. You'll be able to see it a bit more in a second. But first of all, what I want to do is open this box, and we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to jump right here. As I'm climbing up, press the lasso button, and you'll see now I'm flying forever. I can also gain height, and the way we do that is by getting off a platform and back onto it. You'll see I will never run out of my glide, and we can use that to go over here. When we do get hit by that guy, it will cause us to go up, but that doesn't matter because we need to go up anyways. And what we're going to do over here is just wait a second until I can finally touch this part of the map, and then I'm going to go over here until we can hit a button. Now you can't actually see see the button. I'm pretty sure it's like a dev thing so they could test out this mini game, but they left it in the final game, which means we can exploit it without wasting any shiny objects, go back through the box, and we got our 9th spatula. From there, we want to teleport and go to the spatula we just did. So that's going to bring us back to this box area, and I want to do the infinite glide again. I'm going to do the same thing as I always do, and we'll start on our way. There's a couple more things I want to collect before we get our next golden spatula, including this wheel and also this sock right here. Then I want to jump and actually use the momentum from this slide. That's going to allow us to go a bit faster. I also want to come over here, get hit by that pole so we start going downwards, and we can keep our speed until finally I jump, glide, lose a bit of my speed, but we already made it over here, and we can get our next spatula once we switch to SpongeBob. Then of course hit the button, which I just missed. That was a little embarrassing, but anyways, we'll make it over here into this building. Now we have one of these mini game areas where what we have to do is destroy all the duplicatrons, and this is actually really easy because we always know exactly where they're going to be. I can destroy that one, come 2 of these lights away, and yeah, you pretty much just keep doing this. Like I said, we know exactly where they are, and we're going to destroy them before they have a chance to spawn any enemies. So yeah, it's really easy, except for this one on the last floor because there are actually going to be 2 of these. I also want to come over here, get some extra shiny objects from there before I destroy that duplicatron, and there's just a couple more enemies we got to kill, like this guy. He's an easy take out, and we can also take this wheel from right here before finally walking over to our golden spatula and doing the same trick as earlier where we enter the loading zone at the same time as picking it up. Then after this, I want to come over to the left. We'll see there's going to be another sock that's conveniently over here, so we can grab that, transform into the sponge ball, and make our way over here, which we have just enough shiny objects to enter into this place. This is going to be the sea needle, and we want to complete the sea needle and not the intended way at all. Usually you're supposed to use SpongeBob and use his bungee jumping to destroy a bunch of tikis, but instead we can use Sandy by just jumping down here and destroying them with our hands. So there are going to be 3 stacks of these guys. Then I'm going to move over to the left, lasso for a while so I can make sure that those tikis also die, and we have to repeat this for a total of 3 times. Normally you would have to do this in different areas, but for some reason the game just lets you do the same one over and over again if we keep dying. So that's another nice exploit where we can do this way faster. So this one is going to be the final time. I can take out those guys as well as that one too, and we'll get these last few. Just lasso for a little bit, make sure that those things disappear before we die, and that's going to be all 3 done. We can get that spatula for Mr. Krabs later. For now, I got to get some more wheels and some more socks. So we're going to come over here around this corner to get that first wheel and just do some more general platforming. Whenever you're Sandy, platforming is very easy because we have the lasso ability, so we don't have to worry about making too many mistakes. We can kind of just hang out. We also get that wheel from right over there, and we make this big jump all the way over to that piece. Thankfully, it has collision that we can walk on before finally taking this sock and making our way to a shiny object. What we can do right here is go on this window thing and barely hit this button, picking up that golden spatula, and at the same time as this cutscene, this platform is going to move us forward, so that also saves us a little time. Finally, all we have to do is make it back to the beginning where we're going to switch to SpongeBob, since technically Mr. Krabs was SpongeBob's mission, so we need him to collect the golden spatula. We can take that right there, and that's going to be number 13. Now before we enter the downtown, we still have a couple more wheels to get, so we're going to go to the second spatula. We're going to be Sandy again, and you can see the first wheel right there. I can grab that, go back onto this platform, and we're just going to do some basic platforming from here. There's going to be the final wheel over there, so yeah, we'll just go and grab it. But you won't notice I actually don't go return these to Mrs. Puff yet, and you'll see why later. But for now, we head over to Jellyfish Fields where we're actually going to stay as Sandy. Now you're never supposed to be Sandy in this section, but for some reason if we teleport as Sandy, it just kind of works. Also, of course, I'm trying to use the glitch again, but it wasn't exactly working in my favor, but I got it that time. And we can head down here. We're going to use the same trick as earlier where we want to get some more speed so we're not as slow while we're doing our infinite hover. And I want to head over into this direction because we're basically going to beat this entire level way faster than intended, and that's by going by the outer way. We want to stay close to the wall though, because if we don't, a hand might come by and despawn us, make us lose all our speed. We don't really want that, so I'll make my way over here. Luckily there's going to be a hole in this wall which we can enter. We have to make it past an invisible wall first though, and yeah, you can see right down there there's going to be our next golden spatula, so this is actually a really nice trick. I can now use the cave wall to make myself move downwards a little bit. We grab this golden spatula. That's going to be number 14. And finally, to end off Jellyfish Fields for now, I just have to make it to the end of this cave so we get another save point. SpongeBob will talk to Mr. Krabs here, and we're going to come back here later, but for now it's time to go back to Bikini Bottom because it's finally time to face off against our first boss, Robo Sandy. We do have to talk to Bubble Buddy because he has a gigantic range, but after that we can talk to Patrick, get another sock from him, and get our 15 spatula. which is going to mean we have enough spatulas to go into the boss fight. And the boss fights are probably one of my favorite parts of this game, especially the speed strats you can do. You'll see right there, I actually wanted her to do her hit attack, and that's because we can cancel out another one of her attacks by making her do that one. So we're going to repeat this 3 times, where basically we try to get hit by her once, she starts walking towards us, does her slam attack, and we can slam into the ground, making her get electrocuted. Then we're going to switch to Patrick and basically do the same thing. But for Patrick, instead of just 1 swipe, we have to get her to do 2. Then she'll do this attack, so we can go ahead and do a cannonball, take her head, and then we want to throw it at the sign. But as I was saying, this is definitely one of my favorite parts of the game, just because of the fish that keeps coming up and commentating on our entire match. It's so amazing. I love this game so much. I'm so happy they decided to remake it. It turned out amazing. But finally, we just have one more of these cycles to do. I'll try not to get hit. If you do get hit, it's not the end of the world, but it does lose a little bit of time. So we'll just go right here, hit that one more time, and that means all we have to do is finish out with SpongeBob now. So we have to do the same thing. We unfortunately got hit there. It's kind of hard to dodge these swipes, but not the worst thing in the world. And now we both have to do a slam and then also a bash into her head. So we'll do that another time. We'll get her to come over here, do a slam, and then do the bash, nice and easy. Then we repeat those things one more time, do one more slam into a bash, and that's going to be spatula 16. But not only do we get another spatula, but we also get a new power. This power is called the Bubble Bowl, and you'll see it in Sandy's tree dome. We'll use it right there so we can hit that duplicatatron. We'll hit that guy into his duplicatatron. And the important thing for these sections of the game is we want to destroy the duplicatatrons before we kill their enemies. Otherwise, they're just going to keep spawning them. So we did that pretty efficiently. And now we can do another trick where what we want to do is Bubble Bowl and then enter the loading screen, which allows us to move during the loading screen. So you saw me use that so that I could get the spatula during the loading screen, saving some time. After that, we're just going to take that sock from there and enter the Mermaid layer. But before we enter the Mermaid layer, we have to hit the TV, also grab that sock, and we can talk to Mermaid Man, finally making it into here. And this is a really cool part of the game, but also probably one of the most stressful, because there are a few hard tricks we're going to have to do. But to start out, it's just some pretty easy stuff. We have to walk past these people, do a jump so we can get that checkpoint, and then we'll spawn back. We see this cowboy guy who wants to fight us. We're just going to ignore him though. And instead, we're going to skip this entire section by just jumping here, which is really funny. And we're also going to do this trick again where we bubble bowl into the checkpoint, then go backwards. You'll hear a popping sound, and that means we got the spatula. After this, we get to talk to our boy Squidward. He's always great to talk to. And we'll bubble bowl this so we can start moving over and do another pretty hard trick. What we have to do is land on top of this light, because for some reason there's no hurt box directly at the top. And then we're just going to wait it out a bit so we don't hit any wrong collision before finally we move forward, get hit, and then are able to do a bash to just barely get that sock. We'll also hit that button right there before switching to Patrick and doing a Mermaid Man mission. So Mermaid Man wants us to use this watermelon to hit a bunch of buttons. So what we have to do for this first one to do it fast is walk on this, and I kind of messed that up. Yeah, this one is very finicky with getting hit by these red lights, and you can also pretty much stand on air, which is kind of funny, but yeah, second try, I'll take it. After this, we go straight over to this one, which is even more annoying because these cannon shots, you have like no time to react to them. So I just have to hope I don't get hit. I barely didn't, and that watermelon, okay, that was also really wonky, but there we go. We're just going to head down. And finally, we got this last button, which is the easiest one of them. I just throw the watermelon once over there, then throw it again. Finally, we can come over, hit this button, and that's going to be all 3 done. So we can talk to Mermaid Man. He's going to be pretty happy, and we'll get another golden spatula. But that wasn't the hard tricks we have to do, because we're going to have to do a much harder one now. We're going to come back through this area, and you'll see this bridge we opened up earlier with SpongeBob. Now, what we want to do is just barely hit this checkpoint, so then we'll spawn back at it. Then we come over to this guy. We're going to jump on top of one of his robots, and when the robot jumps, we're able to jump off that and make it up here. So obviously the game doesn't want you to do this, and the game also doesn't want you to do what I'm about to do now. So we're going to go down this slide, and once we make it over here, we'll wait a second, jump at just the right time, and barely make it over to this slide. Then if we just hold forward, you'll see that Patrick can actually run on the slide, and we can make it all the way to the end nice and easy. And now we have this puzzle. If you ever played this puzzle as a kid, it was probably really frustrating for you. I know it was frustrating for me, but it actually has a really easy solution. All you have to do is hit every single one of the buttons once. It's actually really funny that the solution was that simple. And we can talk to Barnacle Boy, get a spatula, hit this button as well. Before making this slide, we can just barely make this jump over to here. And yeah, we're doing well. Now we want to head over to this checkpoint, which is going to switch us back to SpongeBob. And it's time for some more hard platforming. First of all, I want to take care of that guy. And I'm actually going to switch to my keyboard and mouse right here, because because on the keyboard and mouse, you have a button that sneaks for you. When you're playing controller, you have to very slightly tilt your control stick. But yeah, I was able to use the keyboard and mouse to make that movement much easier before switching back to the controller, doing some more cool movement. And now all we have to do is line up this shot and go back, get that spatula, just like all the times you've seen before. And this is going to put us into the ballroom, which if you've ever played this game, you know that the ballroom is really slow and also not that fun. But we have a cool way of doing it. I'm just gonna hope I can actually get it because it's kind of finicky. Usually I give myself 3 tries to get this trick, but we're gonna line ourselves up right over here. And then what I can do is actually pause the game in pause buffer, but I messed that up a little bit, and yeah, you'll see it didn't work. So that's 1 try out of 3. Let's hope I don't have to reset this run. Okay, as I was saying, we'll pause buffer a little bit until we're right at that point. We can then do a bubble bash, and I think this one should work, but no, it didn't. Okay, this game is really annoying. Normally you could fix this, but for some reason the game, even though the ball is at a normal place, the game just gets rid of it. So that's a little annoying, but 3rd time's the try. I will pause buffer right here. We'll do a bash right there, and that has to be perfect, please. And it goes right into the hole. Okay, that's what we needed. So yeah, we did this thing, even though it took 3 tries, much faster than it would normally take. We can now hit that button, and we got another golden spatula. Or at least we will get it. Before we do that, though, I want to get another sock, die really quick, and then we can grab this straight from Mr. Krabs. Yeah, that wasn't my best ballroom ever, but I'm gonna take it. 3rd try isn't that bad. And now we're gonna exit the ballroom just like normal. This is gonna put us at the Mermaid computer, where we're gonna hit that button, which is going to make 4 out of 4 buttons, and that's gonna make the computer really happy, get control of the security and all that. So she's gonna give us a spatula, and we're gonna be able to hit another button, which allows us to do the prawn boss fight. So we're gonna head over to here. Once we make it a little far, we can then enter the area, and this boss fight is interesting. It's not really that difficult. What we have to do is jump over this attack twice. Then what Prawn is going to do is he's going to randomize which places we can stand on. So we want to go to the blue ones and attack him with our bubble ball. We're going to have to do the exact same thing again, but this time we actually jump over it 3 times. He randomizes the place. I just guess which one will work. We'll pick that one, and there we go. That's 2 hits, which means there's only 1 more hit. We'll jump over this one 4 times. It looks like we go over here. We can finish him off, and we get another spatula, which that's going to make 25. And now let's go back to Bikini Bottom. By the way, to complete this game, we need to get at least 75 spatulas to enter the final boss fight. But for now, let's go to Lagoon. And Lagoon is probably one of my favorite parts of this game. I just really like it. I love the environment. I love Lagoon in the show. It's a fun place to be at. But we're going to do some cool movement, as you saw right over there, so we can skip the normal boring movement we would have to do and come up over here where we'll see Mrs. Puff. Now, Mrs. Puff is a terrible teacher, and a bunch of her students are now trapped on like balloons. I don't really get it, but you'll see like that kid, he is trapped right now. He's just flying forever. And we could save these kids, but we're not going to, because instead we're going to use an exploit. But we'll get to that later. For now, we're just trying to make it to the end of the map. We can just walk over here. There's going to be these dragons, which are spitting fire. I don't know how these things are made. Are they like inflatable? But I don't have time to worry about that. What we want to do here is just barely be able to make it up here because there's some wonky physics on that hill, and we'll be able to get another sock before talking to Bubble Buddy, not really caring what he has to say, to be honest, and going through here before hitting the button. That's going to put us in this area, and the water, or I guess the goo, is starting to fill up. But we're not going to worry about it because we can do this movement over here, which puts us directly by this next checkpoint. Now we want to take that checkpoint, and now we're going to use some weird bubble physics where we can jump on the bubble and okay, that isn't exactly what I wanted to happen. All right, as I was saying, we want to use these bubble physics to get a slightly higher jump. I don't know why that happened, but anyways, we can now come up here, get another sock, and line up for a really specific shot. What we want to do is line up SpongeBob on one of the clams and aim for that pink clam to hit a button over there. I missed it the first time, but we'll try again. Okay, I will aim this, and I always check because I'm not the best at this shot, and it looks like we didn't hit it again. All right, like usual, 3rd time's the try. We'll aim right there. And the shot isn't actually that bad. It's just very specific. And we got it right there because we saw the button went green. Now we can pick up this spatula, which is going to be number 26, before heading down over here. This is why we hit the button, so we can make this spatula appear and we can go take it nice and easy. Then after that, all we have to do is get hit by the water twice, or I guess 3 times. That's going to cause SpongeBob to die. And we're going to spawn right over here back at the checkpoint, which means we have to do this bubble bowl thing again. Hopefully I won't go through the wall. That was kind of annoying, but there we go. That's going to be the bubble bowl. And this time we're going to be heading over to the left. I will also destroy these tikis, get some more shiny objects, and once we make it into the cave, we get to see Gary just kind of hanging out. Now I have to do some fairly precise platforming here, which I just messed up. Okay, we'll actually go on this one and hopefully hit it this time. We just Please, SpongeBob. Okay, is this really that hard? There we go. Easy. After that, I want to grab this sock right here and go on top of this thing. Then we have to jump while the water has risen, but okay, that happened. Yeah, this thing has really wonky physics, so sometimes it doesn't let you get a good jump out. I'll try to not let that happen again. Thankfully, we didn't lose too much time, but yeah, that's what I wanted to happen. Now we can just get through all these robots just like normal. We'll destroy a couple of these tikis so we can get some more shiny objects before we jump down here, get onto that wooden plank, and also jump over here. Then we want to get one of Patrick's socks, so we'll jump over there and make sure we don't die here, because if we die, it'll send us back pretty far. After this, we just have a little bit more movement to do. We have some pretty precise jumps just straight over here, and there we go. That was perfect. Now we can hit that button and exit the caves. But of course, we still have one more spatula to get before we exit the caves, so we'll just take this one right here, which means at this point we're almost done with Goo Lagoon. All we have to do is go to the last section. Now from here, what we want to do is exploit the boxes. Basically, how the boxes work is you have to open both of them to go through either of them. So what we're going to do right here is just barely be able to open that box. You could hear the sound effect came off, and since we were able to barely open that box, that means we can go through the one at the beginning of the level, so I can just hop right through. Then after that, what we want to do is clear out these bumper boats, except I'm kind of bad at it. Yeah, the movement on this icy arena place is kind of weird, so whatever, we got the bumper boats cleared. And from here, it's time for some more weird movement. Well, not before we just do some regular platforming, like making it up here to get that 13th sock. Then we want to do a jump over to this slide, and we're actually going on the slide backwards. And what we want to do here is jump all the way down here to the spatula. Normally you would have to use Patrick, and he can use those ice blocks to freeze the goo, but we can make it over there with SpongeBob before dying, respawning over here, and now it's time to cheat the game again. Normally here you would have to pay for a clam and pay 2,200 shiny objects, but instead we can abuse the physics of this game and just make it over there by doing some regular platforming. Now finally, what we want to do is spawn back at the final spatula of this round and go through this box. And since we already cleared out the bumper boats, we can go straight over to Mr. Krabs and get his golden spatula. Then from here, it's time to head back to downtown to talk to Mrs. Puff. You'll remember that earlier in the game, we finished her wheels mission, and we can grab the spatula now. But that's not all we're gonna do. We're also now going to teleport back to Goo Lagoon over to Mrs. Puff. Now, because we came straight from a place where we actually had completed the mission, the game thinks we also completed this mission. Mrs. Puff is like, thank you for saving those kids, even though they're still floating right by her. So yeah, that's a cool exploit we can do. And from here, now it's time to head back to Jellyfish Fields, and we got some more missions to do. This first one, normally you would want to use Patrick, and he can throw people into these containers, but instead we can just use our bubble bowl since we're not supposed to have this power up yet. Usually you finish the entirety of Jellyfish Fields before you move on and get that power up. And for this final one, what I want to do is position myself right here so I can get the golden spatula while this cutscene goes on. And finally, then we can teleport over to Mrs. Puff, who gave us this mission. And now that we're over here, it's time for a little bit of grinding. What we can do is jump on these tikis, do a slam, and just barely make it onto this cliff. Then after that, we want to destroy that exploding tiki and come over here so we can reset our spawn point. And after this, all we have to do is jump into the goo, do a little twirl, and get hit in there dying. After that, it's going to teleport us right over here, and we can get some more of these exploding tikis, and pretty much we're just going to repeat this thing over and over again. In total, we want at least 8,600 shiny objects, so yeah, we'll be here for a little bit. But while this is happening, I will say if you've been enjoying the content, make sure to subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and it helps out the channel. But alright, finally, after a bit of grinding, we can come back in here. I will open up that gate, which only costs 150 shiny objects, and you'll see we have much more than 8,600 shiny objects, which means we can move on. From here, I want to do some platforming over here, and we're basically just not going to play this game as intended at all. Instead, we'll just do some spaced out jumps, get that sock right there, then go on top of this cliff, and from here, we're also going to do another jump. Instead of taking this regular platforming, we can just jump from here, make it to this pair of underwear, and use SpongeBob's move over here. Thankfully, they actually buffed this move in this game compared to the original and made it a bit faster. And finally, we can just head over here, get this golden spatula, and also get this guy who's kind of ruining the shot. Come on, dude, I'm trying to celebrate. But there we go. That's all for there. And now it's time to fight King Jellyfish. So we're going to talk to Bubble Buddy. Gotta love that guy. And now we're going to go and do a pretty precise jump so we can make it to King Jellyfish faster. I can jump right here, move forward, and do a bash right into him. And to defeat King Jellyfish, we have to slap him 3 times. So I have to wait till his protective shield goes down and hit him. Then he's going to get his protective shield back up and spawn a bunch of other jellyfish. So yeah, there's not really too much to do during this boss fight. We kind of just have to wait for him to do another slam before we can hit him again. So we'll wait a second. He'll do another one right there. I can jump over it, and that's going to be number 2. This time he'll spawn the blue jellyfish, which are a bit better at hurting us, but it's still not really a problem as long as I'm just making sure I don't get hit. And finally, he'll do his last slam right there. We can jump right into him, finish him off, and we're going to get King Jellyfish's jelly, which we can now give to Squidward. But before that, we have this little slide we have to do. So we're going to jump down here and also hit some tikis. Then from here, we don't want to go around the long way. So instead, I can just jump from here, grab this sock, and make sure that this part is a little bit faster. Finally, at the end of the slide, we have to make 2 jumps right here so we can get this spatula, and that's going to be number 36. Then we can teleport back to the beginning of the level, talk to Squidward, and also get his spatula, so that makes 37. And yeah, that was pretty good. Now it's time to get to a pretty hard part of the game. First of all, we have a fairly precise trick to do to get onto the top of Shady Shoals. What I have to do is jump from here, do another jump, and we didn't get the height we needed. Yeah, this trick is a little precise, and it doesn't want to work for me right now. Okay, come on game. That's the jump we needed, and there we go. We make it on top of here. Now there's some even more difficult platforming because the collision of this window is just so weird in how to get on top of it. I'm just gonna keep trying to spin my way up there, but it might take a second. Come on, SpongeBob, I believe in you. There you go. We get that one right there. And finally, we can get to the top of Shady Shoals and get another spatula. Then from there, we have one of the strangest tricks in the game, and honestly, it's a bit cursed. So what we want to do is talk to Bubble Buddy at the same time as using our bubble bowl. I actually use my keyboard and mouse for this because it's a little more precise, but there we go. That's what we wanted. You'll see that SpongeBob is now stuck in this, and then we can use the ball, which makes him do this. It's actually hilarious, and we'll get him stuck in this little crevice before pressing A twice. Now immediately this is going to spawn us in. We can jump, twirl, and do another jump to make it onto here and do another jump up into here. We want to make sure that we don't get captured by the hand at all, otherwise this trick won't work. But finally we can make it over here, and now we skip to the last part of the game without having to fight Robo Patrick. Then we can do another one of these bubble jumps, make it on top of the Krusty Krab, and go onto this clam where we'll get another piece of underwear before going to the E on the chum bucket. We kind of missed it though. That's fine though. We can just restart it really quick. A little bit of a time loss, but not the worst one. Just please make it there, SpongeBob. I appreciate it. We can go on top of the T, then the M, before finally making it to the top of the chum bucket and grabbing that spatula. Then from there, it's time to go to SpongeBob's dream, which is also a really hard part of the game. So we'll spawn into here, talk to Gary really fast, also grow a mustache for a second, and then we want to make this platforming, which we can just barely make it over there, and then do a jump into a bash, and then do a stomp, and that's going to make it so we can get that spatula without having to use a rolling ball. After this, we have this enemy who's kind of annoying, I'm not gonna lie, so we're gonna make sure we can dodge his attack before going down here, and we have to do a very precise jump onto this trampoline, just barely make it on top of there, wait this out a second so we can get onto that trampoline, and finally go over to Squidward's house, which lets us get here without spending any shiny objects. And from there, it's time to do Squidward's dream. We'll talk to Mr. Krabs at first, who tells us to cover our ears because, you know, we're in Squidward's dream and he's playing music. And I kind of love this place. Look at all the paintings of Squidward. There is so much love that went into this game. But what we want to do right there is some wonky movements so we can just barely be able to use that super jump, make it onto here, and then we can grab this sock by doing a bash there. Then after that, we want to wait a second, do a jump into a slam, and we can barely make it onto this trampoline as well before then making it over here. And yeah, we're pretty much just doing this stage a little bit faster than usual. This is definitely one of the hardest platforming sections of this game, just because if you mess up, it can ruin a lot of stuff, but we're doing a pretty good job so far. I will now wait out this note because we don't want to step on it too soon, otherwise it's going to collapse, just not let us go past. So I don't want to step on the yellow notes for too long. Then we can go across these blue notes, which keep moving. They're kind of annoying until we make it onto the drum, and finally we just have to go a little bit further and I'll be done with this part. There we go, onto that instrument, and we can finally finish out Squidward's dream. So now we're going to exit it by going onto here into the box and just exiting the dream like normal. This is going to put us at this clam, which we can spend 1,000 shiny objects to go on top of here, and we just do some platforming. Thankfully for these platforms, they're not random. We know exactly where they will go every single time. So like for these spiky ones, I don't even have to hesitate. We can just go straight through before making it to Patrick's rock. And Patrick's golden spatula is very easy because it's literally just nothing. we're gonna line up right here and do this trick again where we want to bubble bowl into the loading zone and get the spatula. And finally, there's going to be one more spatula right at the end of the level, so we can take this one as well. Now, before we exit the dream, we want to go over to Sandy's dream. So for this one, we see Larry right away. He's just being a Chad, just like usual. And what we want to do is Sandy's hovering trick yet again. We'll do it right on this cliff, then go off of here. And thankfully, this platform is the exact same height as the other one, so we don't have to do the thing where we exit the platform and go back on. Instead, we can go straight on the slide, make it over to this acorn, and we'll respawn at the spatula. Then we want to do the trick one more time. I'll do a double jump there. Kind of missed the ledge grab. Please, Sandy. All right, get that. We can go into that motion, and this is a little awkward, but it works out. Now, all we have to do is go onto this slide so we can get some more speed like usual. I'll wait this out. I want to go forward right there, and we'll start aiming in this direction. We definitely need the slide momentum here because this takes a very long time, but luckily there are no hands that are trying to stop us. And you might be wondering how we're going to get down fast, and how we do that is by doing a lasso, which gives us some downward momentum, and we can go down into this oil spot. And we have a very quick way of taking out a lot of these enemies. What we want to do is use this exploding tiki. That's going to destroy a lot of those guys, and there's only going to be these two guys left. Also, that dude with the tartar sauce is kind of annoying. Did you see how he was celebrating at hitting me? Kind of hurt my feelings, I'm not gonna lie. But that's all those guys taken care of, and our next golden spatula. So we can just go right over here and miss it because I'm bad. But there we go, we got it. That's number 46. And that's going to be everything in Dream. Now it's time to go back to Bikini Bottom over to the 5th spatula. From here, we're going to talk to Mr. Krabs right away because we need to buy a single spatula from him. Thank you, I appreciate that, man. Before heading on our way over to Rock Bottom. Rock Bottom is a really cool spot with some awesome tricks. It's also very nostalgic. I've watched SpongeBob since I was a very little kid, so I just absolutely love this game. But anyways, we're just going to jump through here. Normally you would have to sneak, but we actually don't have to if we just keep jumping, which is kind of funny. We'll then make it over here where we just have to jump on these platforms. You can also sneak to make sure they don't collapse, but that takes way too much time. So instead, we'll just keep jumping. And there we go. Talk to our boy Bubble Buddy, who is literally everywhere. Like, they love Bubble Buddy, but I guess I love Bubble Buddy too. And now we have a pretty difficult trick where we're going to use the ball power up. So what we can do is get hit right off there, do a jump, and then we're going to do a really big jump to be able to make it over to the spatula, just barely, with SpongeBob's powers. And from there, we can now teleport back to the 3rd spatula. And we're going to do a pretty similar thing. We want to get this power up again, be able to make it up there, and that kind of messed up, okay? Like a lot of things in this game, this trick is really finicky and not the most consistent. I did save it right there because it didn't work again, but there we go. SpongeBob made it up there. We can do a very big jump all the way over to this ledge, stop ourselves for a second, and finally do one more jump so we can move the wrong way on this slide before making it over to Mr. Krabs. Then from here, I want to line myself up with this dot. I make sure the left area of SpongeBob's body is right around that point, and then we also have to have the perfect angle, so I kind of just have to keep testing out angles until finally we get a super jump right there, and we can make it straight over to the end of this level. From here, we can immediately take a spatula, making that 49. And now we're going to teleport back to the spatula we just started. This is going to put us right by Gary. Always love to see that guy. And now it's time to switch over to Sandy. Now from here, we want to make it over to that Duplicatitron right by the sock. We will, of course, grab that sock and then do a lasso over to here. And then we're going to keep pressing our lasso button and jumping off of it so we can gain more height. Finally, once we get to the top of the height, we'll be able to lasso again and just barely be able to make it over to the spatula. And now it's time to teleport back to the 3rd spatula. And who would have guessed, time to use the ball power up again. But we are almost done with it. But for this one, we want to come down here and grab that sock right there before jumping all the way over here and grabbing another. From here, it's time to use some more box shenanigans to complete a mission really quickly. We'll jump inside this box, and earlier we actually opened this box so we can go straight through, hit that button, and come back before finally picking up the spatula right here. And now for the final time, we're teleporting back to the 3rd spatula. We're just going to grab the ball power up right there, and from here what we want to do is jump into this wall, and we can slowly climb it for some reason, which is kind of really funny, before switching over to Sandy. Then we want to grab the spatula at the end of the level and go into the loading zone so we can enter the museum. Right away we'll see Barnacle Boy. We can talk with him really quickly, but instead of worrying about him, we got to get rid of all these security measures. And to do that, I have to hit 4 of these different buttons on the wall. Each time we destroy one of them, one of those robots that are electrifying destroying these places gets destroyed. So yeah, we can just go through, destroy them all. And also, I really love the paintings and all the detail they put into this place. There's so much detail gone into it. Like when we come up here, you'll see that they actually have Bold and Brash on the right. We won't be able to look at him too much, but I love Bold and Brash. Then from here, we can head over to this place and we can actually go through these lasers because for some reason they don't have a hitbox, which is kind of funny, before finally grabbing this sock and making it to the spatula at the end of museum. Just gotta slowly hover our way down there. You'll make it there eventually, Sandy. There you go. But before we end off this level, we have to do the Mrs. Puff trick again. We'll teleport to downtown so the game thinks we completed the mission and teleport back to rock bottom. There we go. Mrs. Puff will give us our reward, even though we did nothing. That's what she gets for always failing SpongeBob. Then after that, it's time to teleport back to Bikini Bottom. This time we're going by the chum bucket though, because it's time to go over to Kelp Forest, which is probably the most broken area in this entire game. And immediately you're gonna see how broken this place is because we're going over to the left. And what we can do is some weird platforming up to here, and we can beat this entire world by going backwards. What happens here is basically to start the level, we have to talk to Mermaid Man. So it's going to put us at the beginning of this part, and then we can open that box, go back to the bottom, and go through the boxes like normal. After that, we want to switch to Patrick and back to SpongeBob because the game actually tries to prevent you from using the box cheese. But if we switch between the characters, it's not able to, and we can just do it like normal. So there we go. I completed the challenge in literally 0 seconds, and we can grab this spatula. Before finally going back through this box, Mermaid Man is going to be like, kinda looks like you cheated, but he still gives us the spatula anyways. And the brokenness of this level isn't even done yet because we still have this spatula since we're still going through the level backwards. And then from there, we can pause the game and go over to the beginning of the spatula. And yeah, you can see what's going on here. So yeah, I'll just go over here, go backwards so we can go through another loading zone. And hey, look, there's another spatula, nice and easy. Gotta love how that one tiny exploit just completely takes advantage of this entire level. Now from here, we're gonna do this one puzzle where normally you would want to be Patrick. And like I said before, you can use those ice blocks to turn the goo into ice when you are Patrick. But instead, we're just gonna use SpongeBob because it'll be a bit faster. We can go through here, open this box, and go straight through there. Then we're gonna go over to the right, and just with some fairly well-spaced jumps, we can make it over to the spatula right over here, and that's gonna be number 59. So now it's time to switch over to the third spatula, and yeah, we're pretty much just doing what we already did, just taking the level completely backwards. And yet again, there's going to be another completely free spatula right for the taking. Now finally, to finish out Kelp Forest, it's time to do the Mrs. Puff thing again. But this time we actually have to do a little bit more movement than general because we have to make our way over to Mrs. Puff, but on the way there are going to be 2 socks we can get. The first one, we can jump on this branch and then that branch to just barely be able to make it onto these jumpy leaves and get the sock up here. Then we're going to go, you'll see that there are all these tikis which we have to hit with one of our bubble bowls. If we hit them all in a row, that's going to spawn another sock. And finally, we can head over to Mrs. Puff. She lost a bunch of campers and wanted us to save them, but we didn't, so they're probably dead. But that's also not my problem because now it's time to go back to Bikini Bottom and to Sand Mountain. So like usual, we'll come to this place, take the ball power up so it can be a bit faster, and go into Sand Mountain. And from here, we get to see our boy Squidward. Of course, SpongeBob has to borrow his toothbrush, you know, just normal stuff. We'll be able to do some platforming to make it to this clam and pay for it, and then that was not supposed to happen. Okay, so I didn't wait long enough for the hook to come down, even though I thought I did, so that's gonna lose a little bit of time. Not too much time, but yeah, that was a little annoying. Anyways, we can now take that spatula and teleport back to it, which is gonna put us up here right by Plankton, but we're gonna ignore Plankton and come over here. Basically, this roof is going to make you slide off, but if we hit it at just the right angle, then we can walk on it. So I'm gonna try to go for this angle, and there we go. That was perfect. We can get that spatula. And from there, we're gonna head down, and we gotta get some more socks. Now, right here, if we destroy this snowman, we get a sock. But also, if we collect the sock in the cutscene, and then afterwards skip it, it gives us 2 socks. So yeah, not really sure why that works, but it doesn't matter. It's time to do Mrs. Puff's challenge. We have to beat this sliding section in under 70 seconds. And I mean, it's a speed run, so you already know we're gonna be able to do it. But on the way, there's also 2 more socks we have to get. That's going to be the first one. And we also want to get some more shiny objects since we're gonna need them for the end of the game. So I'm gonna go out of my way a tiny bit to get some shiny objects, but not too much. I can also do this jump right over here to just barely be able to make it over to the sock and skip some of the map. I'll also damage boost into these tikis as well, get some more shiny objects because we are a little bit low, but we should be fine by the time we have to use them. Oh, and by the way, I said 2 socks on this ramp. It's actually 3. That's going to be our third one. And now we can make it to the exit, which would beat Mrs. Puff's time really easily. But before we make it back to Mrs. Puff, we also want to destroy these duplicatatrons and also hit the buttons behind them. them. Thankfully, we can do it at the same time, open that gate up, and now make it over here where there's going to be another golden spatula. There's also those kids kind of ruining this shot. Why you gotta do that, guys? And now we're gonna go back through the box, talk to Mrs. Puff, and she's gonna be like, wow, you actually passed for once in your life. And she's gonna give us the spatula, which means we're now on to the final section of the game, Flying Dutchman's Grave. So we'll teleport back into this section, use our ball power up just like usual, and make it over into this section where we can hang out with the Flying Dutchman. In this part, it's a pretty scary part. It has some kind of scary tricks, but hopefully I will be able to do them and we can finish out the speed run with good time. Now, first of all, what we want to do is abuse the physics just like usual. So what we're going to do is completely ignore this puzzle and instead step on this button, do a bash into a slam, and we can make it onto that ledge like we've done before. Then we're going to come over here, and normally you're supposed to have the cruise bubble power up, but because we skipped Robo Patrick, we don't. So instead what we're going to do is line ourselves up right here, do a fully charged bubble bowl, and we'll just be able to hit that button to close off the goo. And that means we can come down here onto the ship and get another golden spatula. That shot is also a lot easier than it might look like, but hey, at least it looks cool. And now from there, we're going to head over to the third spatula. From here, we want to head to the left a little bit, do a fairly precise jump, not too hard of one, and make it onto this container. We're just going to keep jumping because otherwise it might be a little bit slower. And these enemies are also really annoying because they can hit you and knock you off, wasting a ton of time. So I'm going to play this fairly safe. I'm going to do 2 of my bubble bowls into this guy and also kill these guys around here. Now, basically in this game, there's a platform that you can spawn by solving a puzzle. But the thing is, the platform is always there. So you'll see we basically slid on nothing, but that's because the platform was still there even though we couldn't see it. So yeah, instead of solving the puzzle, we can just exploit the game and yeah, make it onto the next area. This is where we're going to see our boy Squidward again, but we're going to ignore him and do this kind of precise jump where we have to jump into there and just miss it. Okay, as I was saying, we're gonna do a kind of precise jump and just make it that time. And from there, there's going to be our 30th sock, which is going to mean we get an additional 3 spatulas from Patrick. After this, we can do some more platforming on here, and we want to exploit the checkpoints. What we can do is grab that checkpoint right there and then load our game. That's going to spawn us up here, which saves us a bit of time. From here, we're also going to do some more jumps, just make our way over here. And yeah, not too much to say about this section. Not really any way to speed it up. We're just trying to go fast. I'm just thinking that this wall jump power up is much faster because otherwise it would take too much time. And from here, I do notice I'm a little low on shiny objects. Yeah, I am literally missing 6. Okay, that's a little annoying, but we can get them from this guy. But after we get 2,700, we can open up that clam, get another one of these bungee jumps, and grab our 68th golden spatula before teleporting back to that spatula. From here, we'll spawn over here. We want to do 2 kind of well-spaced jumps to make it onto here right away, do some jumps across these platforms, and now we'll jump onto this wheel. And thankfully, a bunch of this stuff has collision for some reason, so we can make it on this side without having to do the normal solution before doing another one of these tricks where we bubble bowl into the loading zone and grab the spatula. Now we'll see our boy Mr. Krabs, who's kind of just hanging out. Unfortunately, you do have to talk to him because his talking radius is really big. And from here, we're really going to exploit this part. First of all, we'll take care of that guy and bubble bowl into that button. Then we'll do 2 jumps and a spin to just barely make it up here, grab our second button, and do another one of these bubble bowls where this ball will give us insane height. Then from here, that's going to be the 3rd button, and we have to do one of these really precise bubble bowls. This is probably the hardest one in the entire game for me because it is just so precise and you have to get a ton of height from it. Okay, SpongeBob, just do this for me, and that is just barely enough height to make it up there. So honestly, not the worst time I've ever had. And now we can make it back down here where we can hit the 4th button. That's going to prepare all the cannons, but we're not too worried about it since we'll just take another spatula. Then we're teleporting back to Bikini Bottom because it's time to return the socks to Patrick and get his golden spatulas. Now you don't have to pick these up one by one. Instead, we can just stack them all on top of each other and take them at the same time. So to finish out this run, we have to teleport over to the chum bucket. But you might be saying, wait, didn't you say you need 75 golden spatulas to fight the final boss? And that's true, but actually there's the final golden spatula right in the chum bucket. We can just take it right over there and finally go into our final boss fight. And this one is going to be against Robo SpongeBob. Now from here, what we want to do is step behind this trampoline. Basically, if we're over here, we can't get hit by any of Plankton's attacks. He can try to attack us and just keep failing, which is kind of funny. But yeah, he'll just kind of stare at us for a while as we completely destroy his greatest work. But we're almost done with him. That is going to be number 6. We just have 3 more of these buttons we have to hit. We'll get the one on his hand. Now we'll get one on the left part of his forehead. And finally, we have the one on his side. These ones are kind of precise to get, but that's going to be another spatula. And we make it to the true final boss fight where we go inside of Robo SpongeBob. Now we have a really scuffed way of beating this, and yeah, it's gonna be weird. So first of all, we'll take out the Duplicatron. This guy does not want to fall off. That was kind of annoying, but we're gonna destroy this light right here. That will spawn a bounce pad for us to normally play the game, but instead we're gonna exploit it by doing a jump all the way down here. You will also notice my camera is being a little bit weird right now. For some reason that happens when you're trying this. Don't worry, it will go away in a little bit, but for now it's kind of just annoying. Anyways, I'm gonna jump down to this platform so we can't get hit by anything, and then use my cruise bubble and also not hit that. Oh, by the way, you might be wondering why I have the cruise bubble right now. Basically, even if we never unlocked it in the regular game, the game gives it to you for the final boss fight. So yeah, that's pretty nice. And now we can jump on this trampoline. It's going to take us all the way up here. What we want to do for this part is hit plankton right there, do one of our cruise bubbles, and have to go in here. These are kind of precise, not the hardest things in the world, but we have to hit the lights in there. We'll jump on this trampoline after that, and okay, that was a little bit weird. But for this one, we actually want to fall off at the same time as using our cruise bubble, so we don't have to deal with plankton, except I messed it up. All right, that was a little embarrassing. Anyways, like I was saying, we're gonna fall off at the same time as the cruise bubble, so we don't have to deal with plankton trying to shoot us, and we can go hit that first try. Then we'll respawn right back at this point. We can take this trampoline and just do a couple jumps over. There's gonna be another one of these planktons right here, but this time I actually do want to hit him, so he won't hit me. And we can go for this one. It's a fairly easy one. You just kind of have to aim. And finally, we just have one more jump to do all the way down to this light. We can bash into it. That's going to make 77 spatulas in a time of 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 38 seconds, which is going to put us at 53rd place on speedrun.com. So I'll take it. All right, subscribe if you enjoyed. Bye.